The Law Show on CL 650. A comprehensive look at everything you need to know about the law. Now, here's Sterling Fox.
Well, the theme, the song there, starting things off this morning, is looking for some evidence. It's The Law Show on CL 650. Good morning. Nice to have you with us. On the program today, we're going to focus on various types of insurance that people will, or at least may, buy. We'll talk about the choices, important features, and the pitfalls and problems to watch out for with a couple of lawyers who have dealt with insurance companies professionally for a very, very long time. Our guests from Murphy Batista, founding partner Joe Murphy, and lawyer John Cameron. Joe Murphy, good to see you again.
Good morning, Sterling. Nice to see you.
Well, nice to have you back with us, Joe. Tell us the Murphy Batista story, and then we'll meet John for the first time.
Sterling, the firm began in January of 1982. I remember it well because the interest rates were 19%. Businesses were closing. The economy was not doing well. And Joe Batista and I went out. We took our two secretaries with us, and we rented a couple of offices in a larger office, and we set the firm up, January 1982. Today, the firm has 15 lawyers, a support staff of about 60. We have offices in Vancouver and in Kelowna recently. The Kelowna office was opened. And we are the oldest West Coast boutique injury and insurance firm in Canada.
The oldest one around. So why personal injury law? Why did you and your partner Joe Batista go that route? That's obviously you just described. The two of you set out on a specific business tack with this in mind. Why did you choose personal injury law?
Sterling, I've got a business degree and a law degree, but I also have a lot of medical knowledge that I absorbed from my mother, who was a nursing instructor, and from my father, who was a radiologist.
Okay.
I used to go to the hospital with him on the weekends, and he would throw up the films and point out to me the fractures and various other things.
Okay.
When I was going through law school, I worked part-time as an insurance adjuster. So I was working 25 hours a week as an insurance adjuster for a company, then going out of business because ICBC was coming in. This was in the early 70s, and I learned how insurance companies work, how they think, and I learned about injury cases from working the other side of the fence. So when I finished law school in 75 and began work with a Vancouver firm, I took on most of their injury cases.
Okay, right.
And it just grew over time to the point in 1982, my practice was doing nothing but injury and insurance cases.
And now Murphy Batista, it's still personal injury, although the client base has been expanded to include medical malpractice, which still ends up in personal injury circumstances, doesn't it?
Yeah. For sure. Dental malpractice claims.
Right.
Occupier liability claims. People can fall or get hurt at someone's home. They can get badly hurt on a ski slope, in a bike park. It's just amazing the number of different scenarios that end up with a tragic injury to someone.
Right.
People walking down the street can get hit. We have a case in the office that's finished now and involved a young fellow who was out drinking with his friends. They all had too much to drink. They're walking back to his car. He's a student, so he needs to get his books from his car for the next day's classes. His friend thinks he's going to drive, goes to wrestle the keys from him, and the client ends up with a broken neck.
Oh, my.
So these are the kinds of things that can happen.
Out of the most innocent
tragic.
of circumstances.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of ways that people get badly hurt.
Right, and our program, we're going to talk a lot about insurance on the program today. And obviously, for a person who spent a career in personal injury law, insurance matters big time, doesn't it, Joe?
Yes, that's what pays people when they get hurt.
Right.
That's what gives them the money they need to cover their income loss and their care costs. It, in a sense, gives them their life back.
You mentioned how the firm has expanded since you and Joe and the first two assistants sublet space in someone else's office. The most recent member of Murphy Batista is a fellow who, in fact, has been leasing or subleasing space in your office for quite some time. John Cameron, former Vancouver police officer, now personal injury lawyer, the newest member of Murphy Batista, joining us this morning. Hi, John.
Hi, good morning, Sterling.
It's good to have you with us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
How long were you a VPD officer?
I was a member of the VPD for 12 years, from about 1988 until about 2000.
Okay, and what caused you to drop the badge and the gun and head for the gown and the wig?
Well, we don't
Although
have
we
the
don't wear wigs anymore. Joe is,
Thank
is
God.
getting the hairy
Thank
eyeball
God.
from Joe already. No more wigs.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
That's true, no wigs. It was a gradual transition for me. I had really enjoyed my exposure to law as a police officer, testifying in cases, building cases, seeing the process, how it worked in court.
Getting to know the system, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I wrote some articles about things that I saw were wrong in the criminal justice system that I thought were sort of systemic problems. Then I went to law school, and my hopes were to use my legal education in the police. So I stayed in the police while I was in
So
law
school at UBC, right?
At UBC.
Okay.
And I went there. I was actually fortunate enough to be allowed into law school. I had developed an undergrad. I had no undergraduate education. But they let me in as an exemption.
Right.
I was 30 years old, and I went, and I did well in law school, and I began practicing law with a big law firm. And I realized there really wasn't anything I could do specifically at that time in the Vancouver Police with my law degree, and I could probably accomplish more with it in the private sector.
So you had hoped, though, maybe to, as a former police officer, now lawyer, to become some kind of police lawyer, right?
Yes, and
that didn't work out.
Didn't really have that. It's there now, but at that time it was in its infancy, the formative stages, and Vancouver Police and many police agencies didn't yet have a dedicated legal officer.
So you were just a little ahead of your time.
Or maybe, yeah, perhaps.
Okay. And so you went to work for a large firm, as most law school grads do.
Yes, a
and
very
then you
good
start
firm.
to sort out the career from there, right?
After that, I got exposed to a little bit of personal injury law at that firm. They didn't do too much of it, but some people came in who were injured, and I was asked to do the work. And I did, and I found I liked it because it was something, unlike corporate commercial work that's always just about sort of battling contract disputes. This is a chance to really help injured people and make a real difference for them in their life. And I just started doing it and really enjoyed it.
And so now you are the most recent official member of Murphy Batista LLP, although you have been an occupant of some space in their offices for quite a number of years, haven't you?
Almost a decade now. And I've been running my own law corporation myself, much like Mr. Murphy described. I went out eventually on my own, took my one assistant, and in the beginning I had to write all the envelopes and lick the stamps in a little small office, but it grew to where over the past 15 years I've helped over 1,000 people. I have about 200 active clients, but I really wanted to do more for my clients, and I figured the best way to do that would be to join with, in my opinion, the best personal injury firm here in the Lower Mainland or maybe in the province or Canada, and that's Murphy Batista, and I'm really honored that they took me on and made me part of the team.
We're going to talk about a lot of different types of insurance on the program, and the reason that Murphy Batista is so keen to talk about insurance is what Joe just said to us a few minutes ago. With insurance coverage, we are able to defend ourselves, indeed make claims against insurance that we thought we had that perhaps we've been denied. So, Joe, what is, in terms of Murphy Batista's volume of business, what type of personal injuries occur the most? Are we talking traffic accidents?
Oh, without a doubt, Sterling,
Okay.
it's car accidents.
Car accidents.
80%, approximately.
Okay. So let me ask you, just from a point, take a look at our province. And you're a former cop, so you've been probably run across more than a few people in your time in uniform who were driving without insurance, let alone improperly covered.
And many people don't realize something as simple as maybe not having your current driver's license or letting that decal on your car expire by 1 day.
Yeah.
And people have this happen where all of a sudden they're told, well, you actually don't have any insurance. And
Right.
that's a shocker to people, especially if you're involved in an accident. Or impaired driving can invalidate your insurance.
Right. Joe, British Columbia wide, are British Columbia drivers, on average, over or underinsured, or have we pretty much got it right?
Sterling, there's actually two answers to that question.
Okay.
Firstly, BC cars are the best insured cars in North America. Whereas in the United States, the average insurance might be $100,000 or less on a car.
Right.
In BC, it's about 1.5 million. So compared to everywhere else, we have the best insured cars. But I personally believe that if someone's buying insurance, they should spend the extra $20 or $30 or $50 or $80 and buy $5 million in third-party liability coverage.
Okay, so while we may have coverage, you're suspecting we don't have sufficient coverage. Would that be a good sort of analysis of that?
Sufficient coverage if something terrible happens
right.
and you or someone is driving your car and you cause a terrible accident, and the injured people might be in your own family, which is an added benefit of having lots of insurance.
Right.
Claims can exceed $5 million. We've had a number of cases in our office that ended up recovering more than $5 million, but $5 million is the maximum ICBC sells, and that's what everyone should buy because it is so inexpensive. And if something terrible happens, then you've got it, and it protects you from being sued if you hurt someone.
Right.
And if you've got family members or friends in your car and the driver is responsible, it provides coverage for them.
So, John, why
Yes.
do you think most people are not underinsured, but they're not covering the maximum? They're not carrying the maximum coverage. Is it mostly because it's economics? Hey, I got a deal. The guy said, you buy this, this, and this. I'll package it up and I'll do your house at the same time. And Bob's your uncle. Here's the final tab. I'll take it.
I think the main reason is that, and I can remember from when I didn't do personal injury law, that when I got insured my cars when I was a police officer, I'd say, well, what do I get with this? They say you get $1 million coverage. To be honest, I think like most people, I thought how would I ever even need $1 million coverage?
Sure, of course.
I think that's why. I think people just can't conceive of why they need more. But Mr. Murphy's quite correct. In the way things are nowadays, you can imagine, I just give an example, if, say, a young person, a promising student in university who's going to maybe go to law school or become a doctor, God forbid, gets tragically injured, becomes a quadriplegic, ends that career path. You can think of the math of all the money they would never have made in their life.
True, yeah.
It's easily going to go through 1 million, 2 million, maybe even, as Mr. Murphy says, 5 million. So when you think about it that way, I think most people should realize that for that one in a billion chance something horrible could happen, it's better to have as much insurance as you possibly can. And the cost really isn't that different. If you ask your insurance broker, how much is it extra for 5 million versus 1 million? You'd be surprised it's not that much of a bump up.
Is there some onus on brokers, though, Joe Murphy, to be a little more forthcoming in recommending that we take more than the basic minimum coverage? I mean, they're happy to take our business no matter what, but the only time I've ever had a conversation with a broker about upping my coverage from the basic was when I brought it up. I never had an insurance company, a broker say to me, well, Sterling, if you just spent $25 more, you could double or triple your coverage. I've never had anybody say that to me.
I think most brokers, and I say this based upon watching them when I'm waiting in line to renew my insurance, assume that the current coverage is what these people want to repeat in the renewal. And they don't say to them, would you like to increase this? They say to them, you want the same coverages on the renewal, and the people generally say yes.
Sure, just rubber stamp it and let's get going.
I don't hear a discussion saying, for X dollars a year, we can increase your liability
I've never heard
from $2 million to $5 million.
Right.
Which is what I think they should be told, but it's not something that I hear happening.
Interesting. As I say, I've had discussions with my insurance broker, but only because I brought it up. And she was great. As soon as I introduced the subject, she had all sorts of facts and figures, John, but I had to bring it up. And again, I suppose, Joe, that's right. You go in, you bring your paperwork in, you want that ICBC stamp, and off you go. We're busy people, John.
Fair enough.
And that
agree.
life gets in the way sometimes, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
And then it can come back to bite you too, though, right? And that's the business that you're in.
That's right. And that's where people often in insurance need to understand that sometimes they forget, like, for example, you have a husband and wife and they get involved in a car accident, and then let's say it's the husband's fault or it's half his fault. The wife will be surprised to find out that she needs to claim against her husband's insurance. In essence, effectively, maybe sue her own husband. And we think we don't want people to end up in divorce court.
Right.
But really, it's important.
Technically, that's what it is.
Technically, that's what it is. But it's important to bear in mind that really what you're doing is you're just simply activating your husband's insurance coverage, and the only way to do it is to do that. And sometimes we have some people who, at first, are very hesitant. They think, well, what's going to happen? Maybe what's going to happen at the breakfast table if I have to sue my husband?
Right. But that's just the way the insurance game is played.
Exactly.
All right. Our guests from Murphy Batista, Joe Murphy and John Cameron in studio. We're talking insurance, many types of insurance, with a couple of lawyers who deal with the aftermath of what happens with people when people get hurt, and regardless of how much insurance they've been carrying, they all want their lives back. We're back with lots more on The Law Show after this quick timeout.
Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CIL 650.